Good morning. If you've been watching Coffee with Bob over the last several weeks, you've heard him share with you some stories about the recent trip that we had the opportunity to take to go up to Latrobe, Pennsylvania. We went up there to go learn all about Fred Rogers. That's his hometown, and there's a museum there honoring him. But while we were there, we also took some time to go over and learn about Arnold Palmer, because Arnold Palmer is also from Latrobe, Pennsylvania. In fact, they grew up 1 year apart from each other there in Latrobe. Arnold Palmer was such an incredible man and one of the heroes of my life. I've always enjoyed learning about him and always appreciated the way that he approached the game of golf. While we were up there in Latrobe, we found a book that he had written called A Life Well Played. And he wrote this book just a year before he passed away. It's a fascinating book that he talks all about golf and life and business. He shares different tips and lessons that he's learned over the years about how to play a life that is well lived. Well, throughout the book, he shares all kinds of great stories, but he shared a story about back in 1971. He had been playing the Westchester Classic golf tournament. It was up there in Westchester Country Club in New York. It was a tournament that he won wire to wire. He led the entire way. He ran away with the tournament, and after it was over, he went into the clubhouse. His wife, Winnie, was not able to be there with him. She was back home taking care of the kids and taking care of the home in Latrobe. But she was so excited that he had won the tournament. She had been following along and watching, and so she called up there to the clubhouse. She called into the press room because she knew that that's where he would be after the tournament was over. And she was able to ask for him, and so he got on the phone and was talking with his wife, Winnie, and she was just going on and on about how excited she was and how she wanted to celebrate with him. She started telling him all about the kids and what was going on back home. Well, while Winnie was talking to him, there was another phone call that came in there to the press room at the Westchester Country Club. The locker room attendant was the one who happened to be answering the phone at the time, and he picked up the phone, and on the other end, it was a man who claimed to be the President of the United States and said that he wanted to talk to Arnold Palmer. Well, of course, this young man figured it must be some kind of prank call, and so he was about to hang up the phone when he realized that he recognized the voice on the other end, and it was the voice of President Richard Nixon. President Nixon had called because he wanted to congratulate Arnold on his win. Well, the young man started trying to get Arnold's attention and let him know who was calling for him, and Arnold kept kind of pushing him away and shushing him. He was talking to his wife. Well, finally, it was a member of the media who was able to slip a note to Arnold to let him know that it was the President of the United States who was calling him, and he needed to take that call. Arnold saw the note, but he simply ignored it. He set it to the side, and he went back to listening to his wife, Winnie, sharing all about what was going on at home. When the call with his wife was finally over, he hung up, and then he immediately called President Nixon back, and President Nixon simply wanted to wish him well and wish him congratulations, share with him how excited he was and how much he admired some of the shots that he had made in that tournament. Later on, Arnold was reflecting about this, and he said, it was important to me to make sure that everything was right at my home before it was at the White House. Arnold knew what his priorities were: his family, his relationship with God, his own personal life. He wanted to make sure that his house was in the right order before he worried about the White House. Right now you and I are living in a time where so much of what was normal in our lives has been taken away. All the things that we thought we had to do on a daily basis are no longer options for us. And now I think is a really good time for us to be able to reflect on life, to think about what's most important. It was in Matthew chapter 6 that Jesus was talking to the crowds, preaching the Sermon on the Mount, and he said that nobody can serve two masters. What Jesus was trying to tell the people is that we have to decide what is the most important thing in our lives. What is the priority? I think right now is a really good time for us to reflect on that in our own lives, to decide what is most important and what we're going to prioritize. Before long, I'm sure at some point, things will begin to open back up. Life will begin to go back to what we would consider normal. But it's an opportunity for us to consider how we want it to look whenever we go back. What really is most important? What are our priorities? Are we going to make sure that our relationship with God and our home, our family, are these things that are going to be the priorities in our lives over everything else? You and I have an opportunity to make the most of this time, to reflect on life, to reflect on values, to reflect on our priorities. So that whenever life does begin to open back up and we go back to all of our normal activities, maybe things don't have to look the same as they did before. Maybe we can use this time to make life look a little bit better. I hope you have a great day.